My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today we're going to talk about communication techniques that actually kill relationships. Now, when we're talking about communication techniques, I also like to use the term social intercourse. And for today's show, we're also going to be using paradoxical interventions. Again, I've been doing this now for a few shows. Go back just in case you don't know what it means, because it's going to be important for this show. So the first question of the day concerning communication is lack of communication the number one problem in a relationship? Now, while you're thinking about that, the reason why I want to ask this question is because I see it all the time. I've read this, I see it on blogs, self-help gurus talk about lack of communication being the number one problem in relationships. You actually see this from therapists. Actually, I heard somebody at the gym the other day talking about it, and of course I didn't butt in, it was their conversation. You see this even from psychiatrists, which is really weird because they average about 6 minutes to 10 minutes with each client, and they don't do psychotherapy anymore. They just prescribe drugs. So why they have any opinion on communication, I'll never know, but that's a whole nother story. So the general thought out there is that it's lack of communication that's the problem. Well, let me offer you this thought. Everything is communication, and everybody's communicating all the time. Even if you think there's no communication, that's communication. What about nonverbal communication? Such as eye rolling, sighing, crossing your arms. All that's communication. Whether you're yelling at somebody, whether you're invalidating somebody, or you could be the greatest loving, empathic listener that the world has ever seen. That's communication. You can look at it from the good, the bad, the ugly, or in terms of volume, you got loud, soft, silent. It doesn't matter. It's all communication. And it all communicates something. So more correctly said, the problem in a lot of relationships is good, loving, supportive, caring types of communication that allows space, an open space for both people to participate. And that's where the problem is. It might seem like a little difference, but to me it's a huge difference. Because when people say it's a lack of communication, it gets people off the hook. And it doesn't hold them accountable and responsible for all the nasty, horrible communication that's out there, the invalidating type of communication, because it's all communication. So it's not lack of. People who do and say a lot of nasty things to people, they're communicating just fine. They're communicating probably what they want to communicate at the time. We know plenty of people that we see them on TV all the time. We go, wow, that person really communicates. Well, even if it's negative, it's still communication. So I just want to point that out at first. So let's get to the heart of the show today. A communication technique that will kill relationships, guaranteed, is this. If you try to turn your relationship into a threesome, a foursome, or a moresome, and how do you do that? By pulling out your phone in the middle of a conversation. When you're supposed to have your alone time together, or your quality time together, you're going to spend it by waiting for somebody else to get involved in your relationship. So you want to pay attention to your phone, if you want to kill your relationship. What it does is it proves or shows your partner that there's a lot more people out there that are much, much more important than the person you're with. You got to make sure that you text people. You want to check your email, scroll through your social media. You want your partner to know that they're not that important. Now, studies show, too, that you don't have to be on your phone to cause a problem. Just the sight of the phone causes stress in your partner, and it causes emotional distancing. So make sure it's on the table. Make sure it's in sight. Don't hide it. Don't put it in your pocket. Make sure that you bring that out there to make sure that whatever they're saying somebody else has something more important to say. Here's something that's interesting. There was a study that I was looking at, and it says that 62% of women and 46% of men check their phone during sex. Now, I just can't with modern people. Like, this is amazingly funny to me. How good can the sex be if you're sitting there going, oh, I'm waiting on a phone call? Like, think about it. So, like, how does this work exactly? That people are thinking, oh, I have to check, messages. Like, how disrespectful. Like, okay, so we got a female and a male. Okay, so we're having sex. All of a sudden, phone rings. Guy picks it up. Oh. So what was that all about? Hey, Leo and I, we're going out hunting tonight at 12. Like, how does that work? Like, somebody tell me, 62% of women. Like, here's the other way. Okay. Oh, phone call. Which way should I? What was that all about? Elsa and I are going to get our nails done tomorrow. Like, what in the world? Like, how do people do these things? It's insane to me. So if you want to kill a relationship, just bring out that phone. So I had a friend the other day. They showed me this picture. I thought it was a joke. And it wasn't a joke. It was a picture of this man, a groom. And he was right in the middle of saying his vows. Like, it was a picture. They were getting married. And the bride was right there. And he didn't have a jacket on. He had like probably a button-down shirt. I don't know. I saw the picture from the back, but it was probably a dress shirt. And in his pants, he had a gun stuffed in the back of his pants. Now, what type of friends do you have that you think that you might need to start shooting them? Like, that you need your protection during a wedding? But that's not even the story. The story is that on his hip, strapped to the hip now on the side, you can see it, was his phone. You're getting married. Your wife is saying her vows. And you're going to go, oh, excuse me, what, you're kidding me. It's a wedding. Like, if somebody's calling you on your wedding, don't you think if it was an important call, they would probably... If it was an important person, they would be at your wedding or at least know you're getting married. Like, it's insane what people do today. So again, get rid of the phone. You don't need it. Number 2, on how to destroy a relationship with these types of social intercourse that we're having today. You want to make sure that you win every argument. That's important, right? Now, in order to win every argument, you have to be a master debater. Simple, right? But here's the thing. Should you be debating your partner every day? See, smart people know something. And what they know is that there is no possible way to win an argument with your spouse or your partner or somebody you love or you care about. Why? Because you're on the same team. That's why. What you want to do is you want to seek to understand. You want to find a win-win situation for both of you. So you cooperate, you collaborate, and you just figure out a way to deal with the situation. Now, for example, here's what you can't always cooperate, right? 50-50. Sometimes you cooperate, it's 100% to 0%, but in another time, somebody else will go with the 100 to the 0. I'll give you an example. Like in my own personal life, throughout my life, it's been very important for me to keep up with my education and for me to work out 6 days a week. Now, anybody who's in my life knows this. That's not compromisable. That's not negotiable. These are things I'm going to do. But on the other hand of that, everything else is negotiable to the point where I don't care either way. I want a person to be happy and satisfied and obviously they're in a relationship. They need to do the things that they need to do to make them happy. But the things that I need to do to be a human being are to be to work out and keep up with my education. If I can't do those, then that person can't be in my life because I'm not going to feel like a good person. I'm not going to feel like I'm worth anything. So again, everybody out there has to figure out a way to cooperate and collaborate, the best way that they see fit. But let's look at these people who want to be master debaters all the time and just want to fight everybody to death on every single issue. So what you want to do is, if you want to win all the time, one of the things you can do is don't worry about how good your argument is. Just start from the beginning, turn up the volume. Be really loud, be really angry. And what you can do is be like overly dramatic. You can throw things, stamp your feet, just make a scene. That's a good start. It usually will scare a loving partner away and you'll win. What you can do is also threaten. So if you can't make them think that what you think is right 100%, just threaten the whole relationship, just tear the whole thing down. You can do that too. Really, we're talking about master debating, right? In social intercourse, it's all about you. So you're really not using your partner for anything other than just to throw up on them and to get out your frustration and anger. So it doesn't matter what they do. So it's just like masturbating on them. Just get it over with. It has nothing to do with them. They're not really in the relationship. So just shut them down. Don't listen to them. And you can do this by ridiculing them. That's a good way. You can start off with name calling. And even though, you're probably not an expert, but you might as well start diagnosing, because everybody's saying that everybody's a narcissist now who disagrees with them. So just throw out, say sociopath, psychopath, say all these things. That's worthwhile and that should get you far in a good relationship. Insulting them is always good, and mock them. Mocking is good because you can mock their body movements. You can mock their voice. So you can go really far with the term mocking. You want to label them as much as possible. And again, don't let them say anything, but you want to be as disagreeable and as oppositional as possible. And I'm talking on everything, right? Like just fight it out. Like if you have a little disagreement, just make sure you put it out there on the table. You have to. But here's something you should know about argumentative people who tend to be overly oppositional all the time. They do tend to have lower self-esteem. They have lower overall happiness. Their impulse control is virtually non-existent, and they have higher stress levels. So if this is the type of thing that you want, and you want to show people that you really don't have a lot of emotional intelligence, just try to make sure that you win every argument and let your ego run the show. So you have to remember that. It's very important. So number 3 on a communication technique, which is social intercourse, on how to destroy a relationship. What you want to do is you want to turn your partner into a dartboard. Now, what do I mean by that? It's because good loving couples and people and most human beings, you can have a good reciprocal conversation back and forth. I feel this, I feel that. That's very interesting, and this is interesting too. Can I offer you this information? But you don't want to do that. What you want to do is you want to sit down and you want to get like a really good speech or a lecture. And you want to do this on a regular basis. And you want to tell your partner how much your life sucks. And you want to tell them that they're a part of why your feelings are not the way you want them to be. And so in this sense, you turn your partner into a dartboard because you're using them to throw all your anger at. Now, negative complaining with no thought of a solution, typically not productive. But in this way, if you want to kill a relationship, it's a good thing to do. What it does, though, unfortunately, is it makes a person very hypervigilant, and it makes them only see the negatives in their life, and it makes them pretty blind to all the neutral or to all the good things in life. It doesn't seem to make sense on the surface, but people do this, and when they do it, it turns their household into a place that's very invalidating, and it turns it into a place where the other person or partner doesn't really want to be there because they're going to be used as a human toilet bowl or a human, a garbage can. But why would people do this? It doesn't seem to make sense. And I'll tell you why. Because there's Dr. John Gray. Now, let's take the term doctor. It's hard to know if he's a doctor. He says he is, but when you look for his credentials, he went to an online school. Nothing wrong with that, but the school doesn't exist anymore, so there's really no record of that he went to school. But Dr. John Gray was the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and it sold like 25 million copies, and he's been doing seminars for the last 30 years on this. I think the book came out in 1990. And this guy is a zillionaire. Now, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt because he's had, I think, 5 divorces, but, to 5 different women. And so, but maybe he knows something that we don't. I'm not sure. Maybe he has difficulty doing it in his own life. But, we got to take the source a little bit. But here's the problem. He says that men are Mr. Fixits and men should not want to fix anything. So he says, and by today's terms, it's somewhat sexist, right? What he says is that a woman should be able to speak her mind and say whatever she wants, whenever she wants. And the man should not try to fix it. He should just sit there and he should dutifully nod his head knowingly. Every 30 to 45 seconds, just say, uh-huh, and make no mention to try to alleviate her of her pain. And we don't care about his pain. And then what we can do is we can practice every single day about how to amp up the woman's anger and frustration. And then we can have it aimed at him. So every day they'll have a session where she gets to berate him. Now, let's be honest about what this is. This is called verbal abuse. And Dr. John Gray has been pushing this for 30 years. And that's what it is. So if you follow his program, this is a communication technique that will actually kill a relationship. He does have some other decent things to say, but in this sense, he is 100% wrong, and he couldn't be more wrong. What else do I want to say about Jugger? I don't want to put him down too much. This guy's like, but the point being is that sitting there listening to somebody complain all day long, and even the Buddha would say, the more you think about something, the more you make it real and the more it expands. So the more you focus on it, the bigger it gets. So if you only want to focus on a problem with no thought of a solution, and by the way, that's not a conversation. They used to have this therapy. I forgot the technical name, but they used to open up some places around the country, and if you were angry, you could go there and you could take a sledgehammer and smash things. You can break glass. You can just be destructive. And they thought, well, that's a good way to get your anger out. But what they found out is that is more, it becomes a dress rehearsal for people. That people don't learn how to manage their emotions and they don't get out the deep-rooted issues. So then when they get angry, they get very used to using their hands to hammer things like people. And so they realize that that's not a good strategy in psychology. Another psychological mistake that's in my field. But if that's the physical aspect, it works the same way on the mental or the psychological side. If you teach somebody that every time they have an emotion, they need to vent 100% and lay it on another human being with no thought that they're allowed to speak back to you, is just abuse on both sides, actually, because it's not conducive to a good relationship. So if you want to destroy your relationship, have at it. You can do that. And again, in terms of social intercourse, that is what you would call linguistic, meaning language. That's a linguistic masturbatory technique, to be able to only you talk and you yell and you say something and they just sit there. It's actually not just a masturbatory technique. What it is let me think, S&M. It borders on S&M because there's sadistic value to that for one person, that they know that they're hurting the other person, but they don't care. But there's no consent on the other side, and that's what makes that abusive also. So let's move to number 4. Social intercourse technique to destroy your relationship. There are techniques that create emotional disengagement and attachment injuries in your partner, which is the number one cause of separations and divorce, by the way. So all the other things that you've heard of why people get divorced or separated or whatever it might be, those are symptoms. Typically the cause is it's the emotional disengagement that causes all those other issues. Now there's also other ways to speak to people that prevent emotional disengagement. Or you could say it another way. There's ways to talk to people to create a loving, caring bond. So let's go over some of these. Let's use an example of, let's say, dishes in the sink. Something benign, something pretty simple. Now, if you want to create emotional disengagement and destroy your relationship, this is how you enter into that situation. You want to character assassinate your partner. Say something like, you're lazy, you're good for nothing, you've never done anything good for me in the relationship. You can do that. You want to control the other person by making them adopt your point of view. You want to talk at them, not with them. You never want to listen to them. Oh, God forbid, you don't want to actually understand them. And you want to try to overgeneralize. You can do this by saying, you always do this, or you never do this. And this is a good technique because whether your relationship is like 6 hours old or 60 years old, you can just obliterate the whole relationship to act like there's nothing good in it, and you won't be able to argue about that one little specific, like say, dish in the sink. Now you have to argue about the whole term of your relationship. You can utilize accusatory language. Again, the word you keeps popping up. You could say, you did this, you did that. So you want to point the finger like you're their parent. Because nothing makes somebody feel comfortable in a romantic relationship when somebody's acting like their parent. And you always want to mistrust your partner and assume the worst in your partner. And you can do this by amping up your being judgmental. Okay, so that's how you would destroy your relationship. Now, if you want to bring the relationship closer, you can try the opposite of all that. And that would be, say, to talk about the disagreement. Say, talk about the dish in the sink instead of everything. You want to seek to understand. You want to enter the conversation with some curiosity. In other words, I've done these things that I'm supposed to do to uphold the household, and I know you were going to do that, so I thought that would be done. You must, tell me, you worked a lot of extra hours at work. You must be really tired. Do you need me to help you? Much better than name calling, right? And what you want to do if you ever are at a loss of what to do, you want to listen more than you speak. And if you have trouble remembering that, just go 2 ears, 1 mouth, right? It's double the amount. You should be able to listen way more than you speak. And you don't want to say you did this and you did that. You want to use I statements like, I feel disrespected when this doesn't happen, right? I feel, not you did this to me. And you want to allow your partner to be an individual. And that's important too, so you can both grow. And always assume the best in your partner. And always be charitable about what might be going on. Give them the best possible spin. And you can do this by being loving, caring, non-judgmental. So on one side, we see a social intercourse when you're loving and caring to your partner. That is, we know what sexual intercourse is. It's two people, meeting each other's needs sexually. In this sense, emotionally, in social intercourse, that's the way to do it. But again, if you want to be using a masturbatory technique, just keep using the word you and shut your partner down and make fun of them. And that, again, that also becomes an S&M technique where one person is being sadistic and the other person is in an S&M relationship, and at that point, they have not consented. So let's move on. Number 5, because these shows always end up getting too long. That's okay. Smart people with good attention spans will watch a show this long. So number 5, you can kill a relationship by turning your private matters into public matters. This is a big thing these days. So what you want to do, instead of bringing a disagreement or a feeling that you have to your partner and giving them the chance to help you, thereby creating more intimacy. What you want to do is you want to complain to your family, friends, and everybody at work. And you want to do this by make sure that everybody knows about the deficiencies in your partner and their shortcomings, and all these things that you did to them. Because you want to do this by betraying them completely. Because this should be an in-house job, but make sure you put it out there for everybody. And you want to make sure that you're the victim in this, because you don't do anything wrong. And you don't want to take responsibility. But see, you're going to tell your friends this, because most of your friends are not going to have the guts to say, don't tell me this. Or do you think maybe you might have something to do with this? Or you picked this person. Are they that horrible, really? Or are you contributing? Most friends, good friends, would tell you that, but most tend not to. And what you want to do too, in this day and age, make sure that your social media posts kind of hint towards that there might be a problem in the relationship. Because what that does with your partner, it creates a lot of instability and insecurity. And that always works good. Because emotional insecurity in relationships are just perfect. And it does make people feel loved. I'm kidding, right? Okay. And once again, complaining to other people about your partner, it makes you better and better at it. And what makes your partner do is recoil. And what they're going to do is they're not going to trust. And if they're not going to trust, and they're not going to be vulnerable to speak to you more, that's going to destroy any chance for intimacy. And of course, that's going to destroy the relationship. So in terms of social intercourse, what would this be? Well, it's a few different things, because you're bringing other people into the relationship. So your partner is not consenting to your menage a trois or threesome or foursome with other people here. So again, you're not having social intercourse with your partner. You're having it with other people. And again, you're sadistically hurting your partner without their consent. So let's go over this real quick before we go. So 5 ways to destroy your relationship with these communication techniques. Number 1, make sure you get your phone in between you. Okay, create like a threesome, foursome, or moresome there. Number 2, make sure you win every argument, because it's all about you. So that's a masturbatory technique. Number 3, turn your partner into a dartboard. Again, not only a masturbatory technique, but it's also S&M with your partner not consenting. So number 4, use communication techniques that create emotional disengagement. So once again, that's a masturbatory technique, along with an S&M technique that your partner did not consent to. Number 5, kill the relationship by turning all your private matters into public. Again, turn a private matter into group sex, or if you want to call it group social intercourse. Again, without your partner's consent. So I hope that was beneficial to you. If you like the show, please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.